So, have you ever walked into an empty room and just felt this sudden, completely inexplicable chill?
Oh, absolutely. Like just a sudden heaviness in the air.
Right. Just a heavy, almost suffocating drop in the temperature. Or, this bizarre feeling that the air itself is kind of holding its breath.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
And we usually just brush it off, right? Like we blame a draft. Or maybe we just tell ourselves we're tired. But, well, welcome to this deep dive, where today we are actually exploring the anatomy of a truly cursed space.
Which is such a fascinating topic because it really is a phenomenon that taps into something primal. We are looking at the idea that architectures like physical walls, floorboards, plaster might actually have a memory.
A memory. Wow.
Yeah, that a space might not just be, a passive container where human events happen, but actually an active, hungry participant in those events.
I love that phrase, an active, hungry participant.
Yeah.
And to really understand how that works, we are analyzing a very famous fictional space, but we are unpacking the actual mechanics of, how it went bad. We're diving into excerpts from Stephen King's Before the Play. And just for some context for you listening, this was the lost, unearthed prologue to The Shining.
Yeah, the stuff that didn't make the final cut.
Exactly. It was cut from the final published novel, but it provides the entire secret history of the Overlook Hotel.
Right. And I think it's important to say that our mission today isn't just to recount spooky ghost stories around a campfire.
No, not at all.
It's to examine how a physical space can absorb human tragedy, process it, and then actually transform into a malevolent entity of its own. It's really a study in, architectural pathology.
Architectural pathology, I like that. So we want to understand the why and the how of a building turning evil.
Precisely. We're looking at the mechanics of a haunting.
Okay, let's unpack this. To understand how a building becomes a monster, we have to look at its foundation. And it doesn't start with ghosts, does it?
No, it really doesn't.
It starts with human hubris, specifically a man named Bob T. Watson.
Yeah, Bob T. Watson is just this fascinating psychological study right out of the gate. He's a classic American archetype, really, a self-made Western giant.
Right, the guy who pulls himself up by his bootstraps.
Exactly. This is a man who built a staggering fortune, lost it all, rebuilt it single-handedly between 1895 and 1905, and then
decided he needed a monument.
Yeah, he decided he needed a monument to himself. He wanted to build the grandest resort in America, right at the, as they call it, the roof of the sky, in the harsh, unforgiving Colorado Rockies.
I mean, it's the ultimate ego trip, isn't it? Building a luxury hotel on top of a frozen mountain.
Totally. It's man conquering nature.
Right. So he starts building in 1907, and almost immediately the blood begins to spill. And it's not just, a random workplace tragedy. It's his beloved son, Boyd.
The heir to the empire.
Exactly. This is the son he envisioned carrying on the whole Watson legacy. And Boyd dies in this completely senseless riding accident when his pony, Rascal, tries to jump a pile of lumber.
And it goes horribly wrong.
Yeah, the pony breaks its leg, and it throws the boy, and he breaks his neck. It's just devastating.
And, the location of that accident is incredibly significant to the pathology of the building.
Right, and for anyone who might not be deep into the lore of The Shining, the hotel is really famous for these massive hedge animals, right?
The topiary, yeah.
Yeah, the lions and rabbits carved out of bushes that later seem to come alive. Well, that fatal pile of lumber was sitting exactly where that terrifying hedge topiary would later be planted.
Which is just wild to think about.
It really is. The hotel is literally germinating in the blood of its creator's firstborn son.
Yeah, and just imagine being in Watson's shoes for a second. You're building this massive monument, and it costs you your child.
Most people would just quit.
Right. A healthy human reaction would be to halt construction immediately. You'd associate the space with unbearable grief, and you just walk away.
But Watson doesn't walk away.
No, he doesn't. He pushes harder. He forces the hotel to open in 1910, effectively trying to, pave over his trauma with grandeur.
And that opening night in 1910 is just a masterclass in Gothic horror. I mean, it's bright and sunny outside, but inside, the atmosphere is utterly suffocating.
People can literally feel it.
Yeah. A guest actually faints dead away in the lobby because she sees something that she insists didn't look human.
Just right in the lobby.
Right. And then a chef severely scalds his arm in the kitchen. A wealthy meatpacking heiress slips and shatters her wrist. I mean, it's as if the building is actively rejecting its occupants.
His physical space is lashing out. It's like an immune response. And it all culminates in this highly public, just grotesque spectacle.
Oh man, the grand finale of this part is crazy. Watson's pet congressman, A man he essentially bought to secure political favors, he chokes to death on a sirloin steak.
Right in front of everyone.
Yeah, in full view of 200 elite guests. And the text specifically compares it to Edgar Allan Poe's The Mask of the Red Death.
Which is such a perfect comparison.
Yeah, it really is. You have this wealthy, insulated elite thinking they are completely safe in their little mountain fortress. And meanwhile, this congressman is turning purple.
Just staggering around.
Exactly, staggering table to table, knocking over wine glasses, eyes bulging out of his head. It's a jittering, miserable, deeply undignified death.
Which, ironically, perfectly mirrors the death of Watson's dream, because the financial bleeding is just as catastrophic as the physical trauma.
Right, the money dries up fast.
Yeah, Watson hires a contractor named Grondin to pave the roads leading up the mountain, and Grondin just cuts corners, uses substandard materials, and essentially flees with the money.
Typical.
Right. So the road immediately crumbles, the payrolls are unyielding, and by 1914, Watson is $200,000 in debt.
Which was a massive amount of money back then. He has to count, right? A fussy Bostonian named Rutherford.
Yes, Rutherford.
And Rutherford is practically begging him to declare bankruptcy. He points out the obvious. The hotel has sucked Watson dry. It has stolen his legendary business acumen, his common sense, really his entire identity.
You know, I was looking at that specific detail in the text, and I think this raises an important question about the nature of the haunting here. Is the hotel a supernatural predator from day one, or does it weaponize human psychology?
Oh, that's a great point.
Specifically, I'm talking about the sunk cost fallacy.
Oh, right. The idea that you've invested too much to quit, even when it's clearly destroying you.
Exactly.
Let me think about it. Imagine you pour your entire life savings, your reputation, and literally the life of your son into a project. Walking away means admitting it was all for nothing.
Precisely. And Watson has lost his son, his fortune, and eventually his wife to influenza. His mind simply cannot accept walking away empty-handed.
It would break him completely.
Right. So the hotel exploits that psychological vulnerability. It traps Watson in a loop of guilt and denial. By the time we hit 1922, we see exactly how deeply the building has its hooks in him.
It reminds me so much of Captain Ahab from Moby Dick. Watson is so obsessed with this white whale of a hotel that he'd rather sink to the bottom of the ocean with it than let it go.
That's a great analogy.
He actually sells the hotel to a shyster named James Paris for a mere $180,000.
Which is just a fraction of what it's worth.
Right, a total steal. But there's a catch.
Yeah.
Watson and his surviving son, Dick, they get to stay on as lifetime maintenance men, living down in the cellar.
Wow.
I know. The man who built the grandest resort in America willingly becomes its janitor just so he never has to leave.
And of course, the reward for his loyalty is just endless psychological torture. Like in 1922, Watson is standing in the presidential suite, and the timeline literally folds in on itself.
This scene is terrifying.
It is. He has this visceral hallucination where he hears the voice of his dead son, Boyd, calling out to his pony. He hears the hooves, the animal scream, the fatal crack of the boy's neck.
And he panics. Right. He shatters a window with his bare hand just to break the spell.
Just to snap out of it, yeah.
And when his surviving son, Dick, runs into the room, they share this look. It's like an electric shock of realization. They both know the hotel has them.
Yeah, there's no escape.
Watson simply accepts that the meat wagon, death is the only way he will ever leave. He's digested by the beast he built.
So we established that the hotel feeds on the obsession and grief of its creator. But a parasite that completely drains its host eventually needs a new food source, right?
It definitely gets hungry again.
Yeah, it needs fresh energy to sustain itself.
Which is exactly what happens when ordinary people, guests with their own hidden psychological fractures, start stepping into this battery of bad energy.
It become the prey.
Exactly. It's no longer just feeding on its architect. It's hunting the patrons. So let's look at August 1929. The honeymoon of Lottie Kilgallen and Bill Pillsbury.
Now, it's really crucial to understand who Lottie is because the Overlook doesn't just attack randomly.
No, it's very specific.
It targets specific psychological profiles. Lottie is not, she's not some naive, innocent victim wandering into a haunted house. She is deeply calculating.
Oh, she's brutal.
She married Bill entirely for his money and his status in the publishing world. The text notes she views her marriage as a bridge game where she always gets to play the dominant hand.
She wants to manipulate every single aspect of his existence.
Yeah.
She even decides against having children just so she can manage his career without distractions.
Total control.
Total control. But she makes one massive mistake.
Yeah.
She chooses the Overlook for their honeymoon simply to spite Bill.
Right, because he wanted to go to Rome.
Exactly. She knew the Overlook wasn't a trendy place, and she wanted to prove she could deny him his dream trip to Rome. So she brings her toxic need for dominance right to the doorstep of an apex predator.
And the hotel immediately sauces that vulnerability, her desperate, white-knuckled need for control. It begins to systematically dismantle her psyche through these incredibly visceral nightmares.
These nightmares are wild. I mean, they aren't just generic, scary monsters hiding in the closet.
No, they're highly personalized.
Right. In one, she's rushing to an elevator because she's late for dinner. The elevator descends for far too long, so she taps the operator to complain, and he turns around.
And it's not a normal operator.
No. He's a spongy, greenish corpse with bones for fingers. He just says, "Your floor, madam," and the doors open to a basement of hellish brimstone and flames.
It's pure nightmare fuel. And then there's the dream with the topiary animals we mentioned earlier.
Oh, the animals.
Yeah, she dreams that those massive hedge lions and buffalo are creaking toward her across the playground under these black thunderheads.
That imagery is so striking.
It is. But the most revealing nightmare, really, is the fire dream.
Oh, the fire hose. Yeah, she thinks the hotel's burning. She's running down a smoke-filled hallway, and suddenly a white canvas fire hose leaps out of its red frame.
Like a snake.
Just like a python. It wraps around her leg and her arm. She's held completely fast, unable to move a single muscle, while the flames just creep up behind her.
And that's the moment of terrifying realization for her. She wakes up in the dark, remembering a nonsense phrase from her dreams.
She'll creep on you.
Right, she'll creep on you. She originally thought it meant the hotel boiler. But lying awake, she realizes it means the whole hotel. The building itself creeps.
It is a living organism.
Yeah.
And it all culminates when she reaches down from the side of the bed for her cigarettes. A canvas hand, like the material of the fire hose, reaches out from under the bed and grips her wrist.
Just grabs her from the dark.
And the text describes the grip as lecherous. She completely loses her mind. She screams, retreats to a corner of the room, sucks her thumb like an infant, and refuses to move until morning.
She's just broken.
They flee the hotel, but the damage is permanent. I mean, 20 years later, in 1949, her husband has lost his fortune, and Lottie commits suicide in a dingy Yonkers motel.
And her note.
Yeah, her suicide note is just one heartbreaking sentence. "I wish we had gone to Rome."
It's a total demolition of a human mind.
But wait, I need to challenge this literal interpretation for a second. We're talking about a canvas hand grabbing her from under the bed. Are we supposed to believe that was a physical, supernatural manifestation?
That's the big question.
Or was that entire sequence a hallucination brought on by Lottie's own toxic, loveless marriage, dragging her down into a life she secretly dreaded? Like, is the hotel conjuring a physical monster, or just holding up a mirror to her internal rot?
What's fascinating here is how the Overlook operates precisely on that ambiguity. It merges the internal and the external perfectly. Well, it doesn't need to throw a generic ghost at Lottie. It tailors its horror to her deepest psychological fracture. Think about her profile. She is a woman whose entire identity is built on maintaining absolute, suffocating control over her life and her husband.
Right. Control is everything to her.
So how does the hotel break her? It literally strips her of all agency. It binds her with a fire hose so she physically cannot move.
Well, yeah.
It traps her in an elevator, taking her to a floor she didn't choose, piloted by someone she can't command. It grips her from the dark where she can't see or anticipate the attack.
It's turning her worst fears into reality.
Exactly. The hotel finds the hairline crack in her psyche, her absolute terror of powerlessness, and it just drives a wedge into it until she shatters.
So the hotel easily breaks Lottie because, despite her cruelty, she is fundamentally human. She's vulnerable. She has a soul to break.
A flawed soul, but a soul nonetheless.
Right. But a predator like the Overlook eventually craves a different kind of partner. What happens when the building encounters a human who is just as cold, amoral, and empty as it is? Let's move to 1946.
Okay, yes. This brings us to a man named Horace Derwent.
The billionaire.
Right. He is a billionaire, the owner of Derwent Enterprises. And he buys the Overlook, not out of passion or hubris like Watson, but just as a plaything, a corporate asset.
Just another toy for him.
Exactly. And we experience this era mostly through the eyes of Louis Toner, who is Derwent's head accountant, and crucially, his former lover.
Derwent is hosting this massive, extravagant masquerade ball at the hotel.
Yeah.
And the psychological torture he inflicts on Louis is incredibly uncomfortable to process.
It's so petty and mean.
It is. Derwent has tossed Lewis aside for a new, younger British social secretary. But instead of just firing Lewis or breaking up with him cleanly, Derwent explicitly orders Lewis to attend this masquerade ball dressed in a hot, suffocating woolly dog costume.
It's an exercise in pure degradation.
Total humiliation.
As Lewis is walking the halls, other guests who know exactly what the power dynamic is are drunkenly mocking him. They're literally telling him to roll over and oof woof.
That is so messed up.
It really is. And Lewis realizes that Derwent's cruelty isn't accidental, it's a sport to him.
A colleague actually warns Lewis about this. He says Derwent is like a highly intelligent boy with too many toys. When he gets tired of one, he throws it away.
Right.
And if you stick around, he'll poke you with a sharp stick until you run away. Or he'll just poke your eyes out for fun.
Just for the amusement of it.
Yeah. So Lewis is sweating inside this heavy costume, entirely humiliated, listening to the mechanical, grinding laughter of the masquerade party echoing up the stairs.
So Lewis retreats to his room. He locks the door, goes into the bathroom, and runs a hot tub. He has a blinding headache, he's nauseous from the humiliation, but he realizes he left his sleeping pills back in New York.
Which is a problem.
A huge problem. Now, remember the timeline here. The hotel had been entirely vacant since 1936, a full decade earlier, when the previous owner shot himself. The place was a ghost town.
No one had lived there for 10 years.
Right. But Lewis opens the hotel medicine cabinet anyway, probably just out of sheer desperation.
Just checking.
Yeah, and miraculously sitting right there on the dusty glass shelf is a pristine hotel-sized box of Kleenex, a water glass wrapped in wax paper, and a small bottle of large pink Cycanol pills.
It's like the hotel set a trap.
Exactly. He takes 3 of them, gets into the tub, and drowns.
And the aftermath of this drowning is where the true evolving darkness of the Overlook reveals itself. Because the local coroner from the nearby town of Sidewinder arrives, and he's not a fool.
No, he sees right through it.
He immediately suspects foul play. He tells Derwent straight up. A grown man doesn't just drown in a bathtub without a massive head injury or a lethal amount of alcohol in his system.
Basic biology.
Right, human survival reflexes would wake him up the second water hit his lungs. But the autopsy shows no barbiturates and no alcohol.
They just vanished.
The pills vanished from his system, just like they appeared out of nowhere. The coroner knows it's murder.
He even points out that dusting the room for fingerprints is totally useless.
Yeah.
Because it was a masquerade party, almost everyone was wearing gloves.
Oh, that's right.
Derwent was dressed as a ringmaster, wearing gloves. His new lover was dressed as a devil, wearing gloves. It is the perfect, completely untraceable setup for a murder.
Here's where it gets really interesting for me. When I look at Horace Derwent, I see the human embodiment of the Overlook Hotel itself.
Oh, absolutely. They're reflections of each other.
They are both amoral apex predators. They consume people purely for amusement. So I have to ask how you read this. Did the supernatural hotel kill Lewis by manifesting those impossible pink pills from 1936?
Okay.
Did Derwent's very human, calculated cruelty just drive Lewis to suicide? Or did Derwent literally walk into that room in his ringmaster gloves and hold his former lover's head underwater?
You know, if we connect this to the bigger picture of the hotel's evolution, it almost doesn't matter which specific hand pushed Lewis under the water.
Really? Why not?
Because by 1946, the supernatural malice of the Overlook and the corporate corruption of the human world have entirely merged. They are working in total synergy.
Oh, wow. They're like business partners.
Exactly. The hotel likely provided the supernatural means, those impossible pills appearing out of thin air to sedate him, but human cruelty pulled the trigger.
That makes perfect sense.
And the resolution of this murder proves this unholy alliance. Derwent doesn't need to use ghosts or haunted fire hoses to cover up the crime. He uses capitalism.
The bribe scene is so chilling precisely because of how mundane it is.
It's just a business deal.
Yeah, Derwent sits down with the suspicious coroner, pours a drink, and just casually steers the conversation toward municipal contracts.
Just a friendly chat.
Right. He mentions that the town of Sidewinder sure could use a new public library. He talks about funding a new wing for the local school. And then he sympathetically commiserates with the coroner about how shockingly low a retired town doctor's salary is.
It's transactional evil at its finest. Suddenly, the coroner smiles, officially rules the drowning and accidental death caused by a sudden seizure, and conveniently retires to a very comfortable life in St. Petersburg, Florida.
And the cops get a payout too, right?
Oh yeah, the local police chief gets a brand new cruiser for the department and suddenly can afford a private ski lodge.
The evil is no longer just bleeding walls and cold spots. The haunting has been institutionalized. It is covered up by hush money, town infrastructure, and municipal libraries.
In Watson's time, the evil was a raw, chaotic force of grief that violently bankrupted its creator.
Right.
By Lottie's time, it had evolved into a psychological predator, surgically targeting the weak and stripping their agency.
And then Derwent.
Yeah. By Derwent's time, the evil has put on a bespoke suit and tie. It has a board of directors. The hotel is no longer fighting the modern world. It has successfully assimilated it.
So what does this all mean? We've traced the anatomy of a cursed space over 4 decades. We've seen a building feed on an architect's tragic, blinding grief.
And we've seen it shatter a bride's sanity.
Exactly, by turning her own desperate need for control against her. And finally, we've seen it act as a silent, willing accomplice to a billionaire's sociopathic cruelty.
It's quite a resume.
It really is. The Overlook isn't just a classic haunted house with rattling chains. It is a dark mirror. It actively absorbs, weaponizes, and amplifies the existing flaws, the greed, and the traumas of anyone who walks through its front doors.
It is an engine, and it runs entirely on human weakness.
And I think that leaves us with a rather profound thought to mull over when we step away from Stephen King's fiction and look at our own reality.
Oh, definitely.
Think about the oldest building in your town, or even closer to home. Think about the walls of your own apartment or house, the exact place where you will sleep tonight.
Because spaces absorb the energy of the people who live in them.
They really do. The bitter arguments, the quiet, unspoken resentments, the sudden overwhelming joys, the tears.
They soak it all up like a sponge.
They do. If the walls around you right now could talk, what invisible histories, what secret forgotten griefs would they share with you?
Or if you happen to walk into an empty room tonight and feel that sudden inexplicable chill.
Would they just scream?